Okay, so we're live again. Howdy, Facebook Live again. Imagine it's been weeks and weeks and weeks since you saw me last, because I have back for the podcast.
With the exact same outfit.
You should have changed into
I should have. Yeah, that would have
one of the Yes No Law shirts. So Robin Lavitch, we're going to record another episode, but I wanted to give you all another behind the scenes of a recording of a podcast while I get my mic and stuff set up here. So hope you enjoy. This one, we're going to talk about how to alter your beliefs and how to bounce back from setbacks. So if you're ready, I'll get the podcast going again.
Okay, tell me when.
Did you just say tally ho?
Tell me when. Tell me. Sea dog.
Wow. Tally ho, good chat.
When would I ever say that?
And the camera's going. Luckily, we don't have any people watching right now, so that's good.
I knew I didn't start giggling with you. You just looked back. Did you just?
And I can't edit the video, so this is how it's going to go up on YouTube.
This is it. But this is how it is.
Okay.
This is how it's always been.
What I should do is start the podcast and be like, "Tally ho, everybody!"
I dare you to.
Oh Lord!
I dare you that here's the thing. At some point through the podcast, you have to slip in tally ho.
Okay.
And I can't lose it.
But see, here's the thing. On the podcast recording, it can be edited out. On Facebook Live and YouTube, they're just going to see us laughing.
I challenge you to fit it in somewhere.
We've been going for 2 minutes now, just laughing about tally ho. Ay. See, so if you want to be a guest on the podcast, we can have.
Fun it is.
Look, it's a ton. Okay, so.
Serious mode.
Okay. On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt podcast, a returning guest, Robin Lavitch with Surpass Your Goals. So welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt podcast. My name is Sean Yesner, and I have a returning guest, Robin Lavitch with Surpass Your Goals. Robin is a professional coach for businesses, professionals, and now tweens. And so in the last episode, we talked about what's your relationship with money. Are you single? Are you dating? Or are you married? And Robin is going to make me. This is the only time. So hang on. See, so this is a what do we do if it gets totally screwed up? And we still don't have. We have one person. One person who is watching this train wreck right now.
Who's probably laughing.
Who I hope is laughing.
Oh my God.
The problem is a lot of times it's my staff.
That's not a problem. That's a good thing.
No, I want them to work. I want them to watch videos.
When you were going to say, and welcome Robin Lavitch, I was just going to say, tally ho.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, ready.
Okay, we're going to do it this time. Oh, yeah.
You're not having a hot flash.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, go.
Although I should be recording all of this and just keeping it as a blooper reel.
That would be good.
Although we've got now a 4-minute live blooper reel going. We still have our one person who's watching.
Who, can't you tell who it is?
Oh no, they left. Okay.
Time out. What is this crap?
Okay. Good Lord. You ready?
Yes. Just can't look at you.
On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt podcast, a returning guest, Robin Lavitch with Surpass Your Goals. So welcome back to this week's episode of the Crushing Debt podcast. Like I said in the introduction, I have a returning guest, Robin Lavitch with Surpass Your Goals. Robin's a professional coach for businesses, professionals, and now tweens. And Robin is a returning guest, been on the show before. Not quite sure if if we're going to run the episodes back to back, or I might record a couple and put them in between. So, but I know that if you are listening to this one, and if you've been a long time listener, you heard the first one with Robin. So welcome back, Robin.
Thank you.
So last time you were on the show, you talked about what's your relationship with money. Are you single? Are you dating? Are you married? What's your relationship with your money? But now what we're going to talk about is how do you alter your beliefs and how do you bounce back from setbacks?
Yep.
So get closer to the mic and tell us, how do you alter your beliefs and bounce back from setbacks?
Okay. So when we were talking about your relationship with money, better?
Go.
Okay. When we were talking about your relationship with money, there's your emotions, your thoughts, and your behaviors, right?
Right.
Well, B.O.U.N.C.E is an actual acronym on how to be resilient. So if you've had a financial setback, if you've had a blow to your confidence, if you've had transitions, maybe divorce, things where you're really questioning what's going on and am I ever going to get through this, then B.O.U.N.C.E is how you actually become more resilient. And so B.O.U.N.C.E is an acronym. B is beliefs.
Okay.
O is optimism. U is understanding yourself. N is nurturing connections. C is compassion, and E is efficacy. So I want to talk to you specifically about altering your beliefs and how to be optimistic.
Okay, but first, I think some of my listeners, meaning me, what is efficacy?
Oh, that's good. So efficacy is having a sense that I can achieve this.
Oh, okay.
So it's called self-efficacy.
Okay.
But I needed it to be an E.
Right.
So it's just efficacy or esteem.
Okay. So I interrupted you. You were saying...
We're going to focus on beliefs and optimism.
Okay. So, and I'm trying to think. So we had a pretty good laugh prior to turning on the mics here. And I'm not going to put the word in right here, but as you were describing that, I was thinking back to my own personal experience, because the last time we worked together, I owned a completely different law firm, both in terms of its size, its scope, its structure. Everything about that other law firm was different. And I'm pretty sure you know the story of some of the intimate details about what went down at that firm. If not, I can fill you in. But I just kept thinking as you were going through that of my own journey to the new law firm, the being on my own again, and getting back up and running and successful with a brand new law firm that I've just now started from scratch. Well, just now started in 2012. So we were going to talk about altering. So how do you alter your beliefs?
So first of all, when you say that, I have like just utter pride, because we met at the Red Robin and you were just restarting.
Right.
And when I work with people, one of the things I listen for is that sense of belief and that optimism. And even though you have a setback, it can crush you, but it doesn't have to demolish you, right? And you've heard the saying that it's how quickly you get back up. And I actually was talking to Clay the other day, and I told him how proud I was that in the midst of that transition, you were able to reestablish and persevere and move forward. And that's my life's mission, is to teach people how to actually do that. Well,
but the interesting thing was that in my mind, and maybe this is the whole definition of belief, but with the other law firm, to give the listeners a little bit of background, I owned another law firm where there were 4 of us that were law partners. There were 50 people that worked for that law firm. We had, I think, 10 attorneys, including myself and the other partners.
With incredible growth in a short period of time.
Oh, explosive growth.
Yeah.
And it was all around the foreclosure crisis. So we were basically a foreclosure defense firm, and we would add pieces. So we saw that people were getting into foreclosure because they were getting divorced. So we had a family law piece. We saw people were going into foreclosure because a spouse had died. So we added a probate piece, a personal injury piece. We kept adding pieces that would feed the foreclosure, and then they started to build their own reputation. So at first we were saying, well, you got hurt, and so we have this personal injury department, and the reason you can't make your mortgage payments is you got hurt in this car accident. So we got this personal injury department, but then it took on a life of its own, and the personal injury department was bringing in cases unrelated to foreclosure cases, and it just You're right. We went from zero to.
That's what I call imploding.
Yeah, we basically grew too fast.
That's imploding.
But the issue was when I had to restart, when I had to start the firm over by myself, I thought back to 2004 when I originally started the firm. And by the way, when I originally started the firm in 2004, none of my law partners that were existing in 2012 were even attorneys yet. They didn't graduate law school till 2006, 7, 8, and beyond. So what I kept thinking was I started in 2004. I had no network, and this is what I was able to help create. Now I'm starting in 2012 with a tremendous network. So it really wasn't as scary the second time around because I had a belief.
That's exactly it.
That I had a built-in network ready to go just to plug into. I don't know if you
remember this, but so you started on your own out of the get-go, and then you added a partner.
Right.
But at some point when you added that partner, you thought the success wasn't attributable to you.
I thought that I had grown the law firm to a point that made it attractive for him to become a partner.
And that you weren't able to take it to the next level on your own.
Right.
And that belief was, this is as far as I can get.
Right.
Now you see it, the second time around, and that's why I loved meeting with you, is because you were in a tough spot. But the second time around, you had the belief to say, I know how to do it. Even if you didn't, certainly having a network helped, but starting with the belief that even if I didn't have the network, I know I can do this, and I know I'm meant to do this. It's about having a bigger purpose. Then that's what fuels you. If you don't have the belief, how do you start over? How do you get back up?
But I always knew. So, I knew since I was in high school that I wanted to be an attorney. And then I knew at some point I was going to own my own law firm. So the fact that the one I started in 2004 didn't work out, okay, so I'll start one in 2012 and that one will work out.
So where'd you get the belief?
Probably from my dad, who had his own CPA firm.
So one of the things I've been working on is, can you teach belief?
I think so.
I believe so. But it's hard. It's kind of like people will say, oh, I don't know what my purpose is. And if you can't see that you're meant to contribute something, then you can't have roots in terms of, I have a belief that this is the path I'm supposed to pursue. And It all starts with belief.
So now I got this belief, I think, from my father, and I will readily admit my father is probably first in line in terms of, you want me to identify my heroes. The first one I go to immediately is my father. But now I'm a dad. So how do I instill that belief into my boys?
Have you thought about it?
Yeah. I've had him, it's funny. I'm doing the Great American Teach-In. By the time this comes out, this episode comes out. Yeah. By the time this episode comes out, the Great American Teach-In will be over. But right now I'm preparing for the Great American Teach-In. I've got to teach a whole bunch of kindergartners what I do for a living. Right now, when you ask my oldest son what I do for a living, he says, I type on a computer.
Well, how old is your son?
6.
Okay.
So he says, I type on a computer and then I do podcasts. That's the extent of it. That's what I do for a living. So now I've got to teach a bunch of kindergartners what I do for a living. And I can't figure out, do I give them a bunch of cash and then take it away?
You could do it with toys.
I do it with toys. Do I say, if your mommies and daddies can't buy you Christmas presents, have them come see me?
No, you don't want to. So here's the thing.
But that was tongue in cheek for the listeners.
Yeah,
by the way.
That's Sean's humor. Here's the thing. When you teach belief, what's underlying. So here's why I think belief is important. Most people don't know this about me. First of all, I was born premature, 2 months premature in an incubator, born breech. If that doesn't indicate I've done everything backwards in my life. Then I actually was in a car accident when I was 6 months old and I flatlined. Wow. And they said I would never walk again.
Wow.
And so I certainly don't remember that. But what that did for me is, as a kid, I kept thinking, if I survived all that, then I must be here for a reason.
Right.
So I believe that if you can tap into what your gifts are, what your talents are, and how you help the world, then you have a sense of belief. And so what you need to start teaching your kids as young as you can is about that connection with other people and the world, and that they're here to be able to contribute and have a service. That gives them a sense of purpose.
So, but how do I do that? Because is that seems to be too big a concept for a 6-year-old mind.
Well, you're not going to explain it like that. But okay, so tell me what your 6-year-old is fantastic at.
Annoying me.
Yeah. Okay, so he does that how?
He definitely has developed his daddy's sense of sarcasm.
Okay, so sense of sarcasm, aka sense of humor.
Right.
Humor is actually an incredible strength. And if you've ever done Gallup strengths assessments or character virtues, those are all assessments that you can do. Humor is actually one of them.
Okay.
So if you said to your son, you have an incredible ability to make people laugh, that's a gift.
Okay. Okay. So just identify what those strengths are. I mean, he does have what we think is sort of like an engineering mind. So he loves playing with magnets and building towers But
so what kids don't understand is young kids can't evaluate their own thoughts yet.
Right.
We can't do that until we're older. And we're not cognitively mature until we're like 20. And if you think about adolescence, we spend all our time comparing ourselves to other people. So what we end up doing is saying, I'm not as good as this person at this.
Right.
So if you instill in your kids what they're good at early on, independent of what everybody else has, then they have a sense of who they are.
Okay.
That's the easiest thing to do. And if you actually looked at the acronym of B.O.U.N.C.E, understanding self, compassion, nurturing connections, that's all a common thread all the way through.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So
if you're in a setback and this isn't what you expected in your life and you want to get the heck back, you better start looking at how you're thinking about coming back.
Well, and again, in my mind, when that split happened in 2012, it wasn't a question of whether I was going to get back. It was a question of when, in my mind.
And so now you look back and go, no wonder I am where I am.
Yeah.
If that wasn't the belief, you'd have a very different outcome.
Okay. Wow. So total like coaching session right on the podcast episode. That's awesome. No, that's awesome. But unfortunately, we are out of time for this episode. So again, if someone wants to contact you, Robin, what's the best way to do that?
Contact me on my website, surpassyourgoal.com.
Surpass Your Goal, singular.
Either or, it goes same place.
Oh, it'll go both. If you goals or goal, it'll go the same place. Okay, cool. So thank you again, Robin. Tally-ho. So thank you again for being on this week's episode. Again, I said it the last time we recorded, I said we would have you back, and I will say it again. We will definitely have you back for another episode, but that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you all for listening. Please connect with us on social media. Go check out Robin's website, surpassyourgoal.com, and we will talk to you in the next episode of the Crushing Debt podcast. Cool. And so Facebook Live, what started out as a train wreck actually became a really good podcast episode, I think. So thank you all, none of you that are watching right now, for tuning in. And I'm going to stop this before it becomes even more of a train wreck. And
we can do that as a bleeper reel and then have the video as like important content separate. Because it was like a heavy topic, but then we were just fools in the beginning.
Right. So
that's how it always is.
Once I figure out how to edit video.
I can.
Okay. So I'm going to stop the video now.